Uh-oh. We called the meeting to order at 7. It's now 7:01. Everyone's here and the commissioners unanimously approved the meeting. I mean, the minutes from May. Think that works. Um, okay. Because I know she's already here because she's the best. Lieutenant Forrest, we will start with you. But one more thing before we start, I have to amend the agenda. The Linian Outfall Project, Matt English, he'll be providing an update next month, July, instead of this month. So apologies for that error on the draft agenda. And does everyone, we're approving the agenda other than that as written. And Lieutenant Forrest,
Yes, ma'am. Can
thank you
everybody?
so much for being here.
Thank you guys, as always, for having me. My stats are pretty good this month. Everything for PSA 203 is down. ADW for the last 30 days, we had none. Robberies, we had none. Burglaries, we had none. Motor vehicle theft, we had one, and that occurred in the 4501 Connecticut Avenue. That was from their garage. So, but we had only one for the last 30 days. With regards to theft from auto, we are down 53%. We had a total of seven for the past month, which we had two in the 4500 block of Connecticut Avenue. Theft, that's our biggest driver. We are only down a smidget, 4%, but I'll take it. Whatever we could get down, I'll take it. But these are pretty much from the retail stores um, in the 4300 and 3500 block of Connecticut Avenue. We're still continuing with our pretty much our business checks and whatever we can do to have presence in those areas as much as we possibly can. With regarding to that sound of gunshots, as I spoke about a little bit earlier before everybody came on, I've already called up to have special attention in that Brandywine, Connecticut area within the park for the midnight and also for the evening shift going forward for the next, at least for the next 7 days. With regarding to that sound of gunshots last night, I know a lot of people have questions regarding that. However, from the intel that I've gotten so far, we had calls for sounds of gunshots in that area. Secret Service officer uniform along with MPD canvassed the area and there was nothing, no destruction, no victims or of the sort. However, there was an Are you good? Okay, there was an uncooperative witness that stated that there was a white vehicle that was pretty much circling the block right before. So don't know if that intel is 100% correct or not, but from our perspective, we canvassed last night and the officers also went back again to that area in the daylight to canvass and there was no shell casing, which does not mean that it didn't happen. It's just that mean we didn't find the shell casing. It's possible that if someone was shooting from a vehicle, the shell casing could have fallen into the vehicle. So we're still looking into that. We're still, if you guys have any information regarding that or anything at all that you guys have to send over to us, so we could forward it to over to our detective's office, that would be great. But as of now, we have found nothing with regards to that.
Um, uh,
Um, or or I actually had two things very directly related, but I don't mean to cut ahead of you.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Um, one thing was, and I admittedly learned this from a Reddit forum post,
Mm-hmm.
but apparently there was also an accident or a car accident on Connecticut. I don't think it was Porter or it might have been near Porter, but
Mm-hmm.
a car accident near enough to where people were wondering if the sound of the gunshots were in fact that actual car accident. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if that's useful to you in any way, but that's the one other thing I've heard about this when I've tried reading about it or asking about it is other than the car circling the area, is people posting talking about there was actually an accident in Connecticut and we think it was the cars. I mean, it was a very loud accident, is what kind of the comments were. I don't know
Okay.
if that's helpful for you in any way.
Heard any, like I said, every little bit counts. I did not hear that because I'm in training this week, so I haven't like really been back to really look at all the reports that we got back. That wasn't something that was brought to my attention, but I'll definitely look into that.
And the one other thing was actually in
Mhm.
our chat, and I'm so sorry, Commissioner Carlson, I've got that taken care of.
Oh, thanks.
Sorry, I was doing it and I
Good
kept not saying
multitasking,
anything.
Adrian. Yeah,
Um,
asking questions, reading chats.
we heard that MPD was investigating a sexual assault near the pool at the Van Ness East building. Do you have any information on that?
Van Ness, when did that happen?
I will
I
hope
can
that,
call on, I can
yeah,
call on the person, can you, the person who has her hand,
I've called
raised,
on them.
JSCRI, can you, state your name, please?
My name is Julia Miller.
Thanks,
And
Julia.
hi. We heard that I think over the weekend that MPD was investigating a sexual assault that may have happened near the Van Ness East condominium pool. That's 2939 Van Ness Street Northwest. Do you know anything about that?
Okay, so I do not. However, because what happened once we get called for sexual assault, there's another unit that look into it. And this weekend we had a whole lot going on, a lot of CDUs. I was not in the section, but I'm going to look this up for you. But this was not something that was on our watch commander's report. It could have been that they didn't find anything, or it could have been that it did not reach to my, my level. But I'm going to look into it for you. You said it was over the weekend. What day do you remember?
We don't know exactly because I'm a resident in the building and
Mm-hmm.
we don't get all the information actually. And so it's sometimes can be a little bit challenging to know exactly what's going on.
Oh, no, that's fine. I could always look it up for you if it was this weekend that just passed. The Van Ness Pool East, 2939 Van Ness. Do you mind giving me your email so I could like once I get back to work on Sunday, I could look it up and I guess reply back to you?
Julia,
Sure.
you can email it, you can put it in the chat to the co-host and we'll send it along to Lieutenant Forrest.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Marilyn Lance, Marilyn, Lieutenant Forrest, I'm sure you know, she's
Yes.
she is the, head of the Tenants Association of the Brandywine apartment building and fabulous neighbor to all.
Mhm.
Thank you. Hey, I don't want to belabor the alleged incident last night, but I had quite a few people text and email that said they heard these shots. And I hope I can clarify it or you can clarify it.
Mhm.
They were told that a woman was shot and wounded inside the Saratoga. Can we flatten that now, or was the investigation or the
I'm on the call. Let me
canvassing
call you
just
back.
for the exterior of the buildings around Connecticut and Brandywine?
Okay, thanks. Yes,
Hello, hello?
I'm sorry. I was kind of multitasking. So, with regarding to, I'm sorry, Marilyn. Captain Hassis was calling me at the same time. I was talking to you at the same time. What was your last sentence?
No, I just want to kind of flatten it. I mean, I appreciate your email and Captain Hass's email, and I don't have any problems with that. But I don't know how so many people can say, one, they heard multiple shots, two, all of a sudden a woman is shot and wounded in the Saratoga, but you're saying none of that occurred. Or
Oh
but
no,
the
so Saratoga, the Saratoga I don't know about. I will look into that. Like I said, I did not get that because I was actually in training today and I did not see any wounded person on any of my reports. But I can definitely what's the address for the Saratoga, Maryland?
It's 4601 or 4605. I'll look it up.
Okay,
It's
no worries. I
it's
will look.
right it's right in the start of the next block from the Brandywine.
Okay, So I will definitely look that up also, because like I was saying before, not because we didn't find shell casings, that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. And not because we did not get a shot spotter, that doesn't mean it didn't happen either. Because like I was saying earlier, it's quite possible that if someone was in a vehicle, the shell casings could have fallen in the vehicle. And if we have nobody, no witness, no victims saying that something happened and we have no destruction of property, then we cannot say with 100% certainty that this happened. But we're still not saying that it didn't. We're just saying at this point we have no evidence saying that it happened.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
You're welcome.
And you'll get back to me, right?
Yes, ma'am. We always speak, I will always get back to you.
Thank you. I love you.
You're welcome. Love you too.
Terry, hi, Terry.
Hi. Thanks for all of this conversation. I was, and thank you so much, Lieutenant Forrest. Whenever I say your rank, I have to pause because I work with lieutenant colonels, so I have to not put an extra rank in there. You mentioned earlier the 4501 Connecticut Avenue, and I've had several, I'm the VP of the Tenant Association here at the Albemarle, and thank you so much for your support when we had that first, I think it was the first incident with the stolen bike.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for your support, because our garage was broken. It just happened to break during that holiday, and we're waiting for maintenance to come. So many people were very on edge. Someone could get into our garage
Harriet.
and then steal a bike.
Terry, I gotta ask you to, because we have another person in line and we're already
Okay.
behind, so.
No, I understand. So
Sorry.
my concern is that there have been 2 cars broken into in our building, and you mentioned 4501 Connecticut Avenue. That's us. And 1 vehicle stolen.
Motorcycle, I believe.
Yeah, I'll reach out to you.
Okay.
I'll reach out to you.
All right. No worries.
Thank you.
Sorry, Terry, I didn't mean to. We're trying to, I just want to get to everybody. Robert Fleischman, please.
Hi, yes, thank you. Back to the possible shooting last night. The park behind the Saratoga is a real hangout. I'm wondering if any additional lighting. I know there are those mobile lights that have been deployed in the past, but I think some stronger lighting in this general area would really potentially help to curtail some of these activities. Is that a possibility that something can be done either in the near term or for a while at least? We've had lighting down there in the past on Brandywine as you go down the hill.
Are you
There've been these mobile
talking?
lights.
Are you talking about the mobile the mobile crime lights
Well, that's
that?
just one example. I'm not an expert on this at all, but I've seen those deployed in
Oh,
the
okay.
past. And that area,
Okay, so
adjacent to the tennis courts is a real hangout.
okay.
And
So
we've heard that some of those people are also making, like, it or intimidating other people who would
Yeah.
like to use the park.
Yep.
okay. So I will find out about the additional with the mobile cameras. That's what it is, the mobile cameras. I know we only had 2 and one was not was not working. And if my memory served me right, we were supposed to be getting a crime camera. I think Brandywine and Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken. But I
30
will.
That's
But
correct.
30
That's
seconds.
correct.
Brandywine.
yes.
Brandywine in Connecticut
In
per
Con-
Commander Savoy.
Yes, yes. So, with regarding to additional lighting, I don't know if we have any additional mobile cameras that we could probably have over there. Because, like I said, most districts only have 1 or 2 for the entire districts, and those are normally put in places where like it's the volume of the crime is like way higher. Not that this is not important. Maybe this is something that we probably could speak to with regarding to probably DPW and their lighting system. Maybe if they would that work like brighter lights or something like that, DPW, if they,
It would
maybe
help as a deterrent for sure.
yeah. Yeah, that that
You
that
know,
that would be something that I don't know if DPW is on here, if it's something that they could probably work with in getting brighter lights in that area.
Maybe we
this
can put
area is
that,
starting to merit
Commissioner
that.
Bear.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was just gonna say to Commissioner Bear in parks and watersheds, maybe that's something we could put on the list to add to one of the things we talked to DPW about. Thank you so much for that suggestion and bringing that to light in this context, Mr. Fleischman, because I think it's true and we've heard you know, again, that in conversations that people don't feel welcome at the park at times.
And to your credit, I, for example, live directly in front of what is a private alley, and though I do despise the bright lights at night, that is very much an effective tactic that they've deployed to combat
Yes.
precisely the issue you're talking about, which is why we don't have the issue in our alley behind Bread First. So I understand.
Thank you. Does anybody, any other questions for Lieutenant Forrest? Thanks for your attention to this. We're going to continue to follow up on certainly Maryland's feedback about the possible involvement at the Saratoga. And Terry, we have heard about those break-ins at your building as well. So let's keep that all at top of mind, please. Thanks so much, Lieutenant.
You're very welcome. You guys have a pleasant evening.
Thanks. And you guys had so much to do this weekend. We appreciate you so much.
You're very welcome.
Kendall Gibson, the Mayor's Office of Community Relations.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kendall Gibson. I'm the Ward 3 manager in the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services. I'm going to be yielding most of my time to Director Hanlon, who will be speaking later on the agenda regarding the mayor's budget. But I just wanted to share two things. The first being I'll be having a informal office hours event at the Park Van Ness building. It is primarily for residents of the building, but if you would like to attend, you can feel free to reach out to me. It will be from 4:30 to 6 on Tuesday. And then I'm having a larger office hours event on the 29th of June at Chevy Chase Library from 3:30 to 5. And I'll put all that information in the chat for you, but I'll yield the remainder of my time for when it's Director Hanlon's turn on the schedule.
I like how we're going on Senate rules here, yielding the time. Thank you very much for doing that. We'll take it. We'll take that time and we'll run with it. Gloria Garcia, Van Ness Main Street. In yielded time you are.
I know, how formal. Hi, everyone. Gloria Garcia, Van Ness Main Street. I put in the chat the dates confirmed for District Fringe. That is really the big news for next month. Again, Adrian, thank you so much for your help. It is coming to UDC and some of the businesses in the Van Ness Main Street office. It is the last 3 weekends in July, so more to come, but wanted people to mark their calendars, and I put it in the chat. The other thing that I have, which isn't public yet, but I am going to share for the good of the whole, is that UPS, unfortunately, is going to be leaving the corridor in November. Yes.
No, Larry.
Yes.
No.
Yeah,
I
I
love them.
I know. I can't say any more about
My
how
children are
upset
not gonna
everyone
get
is.
cookies
I've
sent
already,
to them.
yes,
Oh.
I've known, we've talked to the franchisee. It's just for many reasons. It's not that they hate the neighborhood. It's really they've outgrown their location. They're just going down one metro stop to Cleveland Park. Yeah, no. And so, and the reason I'm sharing this is because it affects Van Ness Main Street, but that PO box that we have with them is our official mailing address. So I have to figure it out before I even renew the PO box of what I'm going to do. So I thought that other people might be affected as well and would want to start reacting if, you know, because I don't know. There's one in Chevy Chase as well. So there's one in Chevy Chase, there's one in Denleytown, and unfortunately Van Ness is losing ours. So
Not the same as our guys. Those guys are great.
no, I'm gonna miss Thomas. I mean, I'll still go down and see them because I'm hoping that they will
The
give
same.
me, my
Yeah.
discount, but I don't believe that I'm going to try to change the mailing address just because I want to keep it on the corridor. So just wanted people to be aware. I know it's been heartbreaking. I can't even.
I'm sorry to hear
I
that.
love them. I love them.
And
So
Gloria,
yes.
would you mind the information that you have put in chat?
Mhm.
I don't believe it's made it to chat. Could you either email
It's
it
at the
to me
beginning.
or oh, perfect.
It's right at the
Fine.
top.
Okay,
I
great.
did it
Oh,
right at the top.
oh, okay, it's early. Great, perfect. You have to scroll to the top. Sorry, just making sure it's there.
Thanks, Gloria, for
Thank
being the
you.
bearer of bad news.
I know. I'm sorry. I've been digesting
I
for
was
2
just
weeks
there
myself.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Reminder, it's what our, like, the people in these businesses make our neighborhood so good, and what you do is so important, Gloria.
Yeah, but just know we're already in touch with American University because we don't want both of those spots to be vacant. I mean, we've been in touch with them about subway space. So now, we just can't have that corner be so bare.
Great. Commissioner Bear?
Gloria, do you know the date that they're going to be moving out?
I just heard November.
Thank you.
It depends on their build out down in Cleveland Park based on corporate, parameters.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks a
That's
lot, Gloria.
Yep.
And hooray for District Fringe, so we can go out on a high note.
Oh, and one more thing, our next quarterly cleanup in the park is July 12th. It'll be before your next ANC. So we'll be social mediaing out. And you do have Carpe Librum. Was it last weekend?
It was last week. I
Yeah,
think-
it was last weekend. So yeah.
Great. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Juanita Gray, UDC.
Good afternoon or good evening, commissioners. Juanita Gray, University of the District of Columbia. Couple of things. I want to thank former Commissioner Hewitt for coming to the university's budget oversight hearing and testifying. She gave a very impactful and powerful statement, so we really appreciate her for that. And thank you to everyone else who wrote written testimony and submitted that. We appreciate it. I know the mayor's office is on to talk about the budget, but I do want to say that the mayor did give the university $20 million for student housing. And that housing will be located in the space of where Building 41 is. So Building 41 will no longer be the archives. The mayor made this announcement a few weeks ago during her budget hearing, or her budget presser. So the archives will be going to a new location, and the university will be maintaining that space for student housing. So we're excited about that. And then just today, council did an emergency approval of the university's 9th master agreement with our faculty association. So that contract has been signed and approved. So we're pretty excited about that as well. Those are my updates for tonight.
Anita, can you, I don't know if you have information to share in more detail on the mayor's announcement yet. Do you?
I just have what was
what we all know.
and then I can find what's in the language and send it.
Yeah, I mean, I think people who are frequent attendees of these meetings know that we've been having Brad King here to give us updates on the demolition of Building 41 and how that was going, assuming again that an archives was going to be put in its place. Our former ANC did a lot of work on working with the happening of that archives. They're how it was going to happen and talking to the neighbors. So my understanding from reading what I've read about it is that everything is going to be the same for the near future. Is the building will continue to be demolished, and it is just housing as opposed to
The archives, correct.
archives that are going to be in its place, and not even like archives in the basement, just like it's housing. So that's what it is.
So
Okay.
from my understanding, there's 15 million that's going for the demolition of the building, and then another 5 million that will go for the start of, and the housing won't happen immediately, right? It's going to cost more than 20 or $5 million to build a building for student housing. That's world-class state of the art. So it's going to take some time, and we'll have to raise those funds. So
Did you have, because I know, I think in some of your, obviously in the master plan, you guys have wanted more housing for a long time. Do you guys have, had UDC conceptualized of some plans that would make it like a sort of streamlined process to go ahead, as opposed to starting from scratch and looking at what housing might be and what it's going to look like and how many things? Like, do you have some stuff that's conceptualized that would get you closer?
Yeah, so housing has been a priority. It was a priority up under President Mason, and it continues to be a priority up under President Eddington. So we've already been in a process of putting plans together, talking to various potential stakeholders, potential public-private partnership type situations. I'm not privy to those conversations. I just know that they're happening. I can probably get you more information for July's meeting. I didn't know you were going to ask a bunch of the questions about it, but
Sorry, I actually would have allocated more time for you if I'd really thought it through, but it's like pretty significant news for this neighborhood. And I mean, I think I can represent our ANC by saying we are thrilled to have more UDC students have available housing to live where they learn.
So if you want to, I can ask our chief operating officer if he or one of his staff members can come to the July meeting.
Great.
Give just some updates on what they've been working on, because that would probably be best, or at least at minimum, he gives me some talking points that I can go through.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let's do that. Thank you. Thank you so
Welcome.
much. And congratulations. I mean, I think that's like, I think the archives is gonna be great. I think this is gonna be great too. So this is good for the neighborhood, in my opinion. So I'm hooray for UDC as always. Council member Fruman's office, is Shantice here or someone else?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hi.
I'm sorry, I'm in the car. I had to drop my daughter off at my grandmother's house.
That's okay. You make it work how you got to make it work. We're happy to have you. Go for it.
It's good to be here. So I only have a little update this week. So this week will be the end of the budget oversight hearings, with next week being the budget oversight hearing markups. The first budget vote is on July the 15th. For our office, the major update really is just that we are doing this month our workday in the ward at Dolan in Cleveland Park. So please stop by from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with coffee with the council member from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. along with various agencies. And that's pretty much the major things that we have in our office.
Excellent. We'll yield your time too, Shantice. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you. You enjoy your evening.
Thanks. Strongly encourage everyone to go to that the council members coffee, because it's really nice. There are really a lot of people there that you can ask questions of and get answers. More importantly than your questions are the answers are there. Judy Ingram, Northwest Community Food.
Good evening, everybody.
Happy moving.
Yes, we are in. We've settled into our new space at the back of the David A. Clark Law School at UDC. And we continue to contribute to distribute free food and supplies every weekend, rain or shine. This past weekend, we served 334 households, which is about average right now. To mark our new home and celebrate our new chapter, we're holding an event on Sunday, June 29th at 12:30 p.m., where we'll extend our deep gratitude to UDC President Eddington and his team for their unwavering support. Please join us in the alley between the law school and Gold's Gym. We'll pay tribute to President Eddington, Councilmember Fruman, ANC3F commissioners, hope you'll all be there, and other food pantry supporters and friends who've really helped us to grow and succeed, or keep working at least to combat food insecurity. We promise to keep the speeches very brief because we have distribution starting at 1 o'clock. So it'll be just a half hour out of everyone's day. We hope to see everybody there. I'd also encourage, I think last time I checked, there were 45 participants in this meeting. I'd encourage every one of you and your friends to join our volunteer team. It's a really great community of people, both guests and volunteers. A lot of fun, great exercise, although we do have some more sedentary tasks. Because in the summertime is it's traditionally the time when our volunteer ranks dwindle, and we're short-staffed at just the time we really need people with strong backs and friendly smiles. This weekend, for example, we're going to be distributing 1,500 pounds of watermelon, and that takes muscle. I could go on and on about why it's great to volunteer. One other note for parents out there and guardians is that we do happily certify community service hours. And I think that most of our middle and high school volunteers would attest that it's quite a great experience to work with this team and to meet people that they would never be encountering, including some of our older volunteers. It's not a bad place to network. So I'll ask Commissioner Iglesias to put a link to our website in the chat. You can go to the volunteer button and sign up, and we will be happy to send you the sign up. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy that you are securely and functionally, most importantly, in your new space. And thanks also again to UDC for making that happen.
Judy, could you repeat the date and time for the event?
So it's a week from Sunday, June 29th at 12:30.
Okay.
Chair Carlson, we can't guarantee a cheese board, but we are.
I'm going to be out of town. I'm so sad.
Oh, okay. Well, then
But
no
I
cheese
would have
board
come
here.
even without a cheese board. Or I would have brought the cheese
We're hoping
board.
to have an Italian ice truck.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice.
And
I was
other refreshments.
I just texted our commissioners. I'm hoping that it's always great to volunteer and it's really fun when you do it with a friend. So I actually just texted the group to see if we could find the 5 of us could find a time when we could all volunteer together. I know I can't lift 40 pounds, but there are lots of things you can do if you can't lift 40 pounds. So we hope to see you as a group. If not all of us, everybody with exclamation points, yes, wrote back. So we're all in.
We'll welcome you with open arms.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any announcements from the community? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes just to see if anybody has a hand raised. And then I'm going to go directly, I'll give you a second, but Terry, Chair of Housing and Neighborhoods, we're not yielding your time. We're going to give you some of your time back to an important housing and neighborhoods issue later in the agenda, but I know you have some things to report on your building and what's been happening there, as well as maybe other info. So Chair Housing and Neighborhood, Chair Hewitt, you're on. Or maybe you're not. Is she there?
I had to unmute. Thanks.
Oh, okay, good.
Sorry.
Hello
That's
again.
okay. Hello. So if you're referring to the TOPA process we just went through, yes. So I think that for anyone who's questioning the purpose or the existence or the need of TOPA, I can attest, along with 136 people who voted out of our 234 apartments, I think 10 are vacant, that TOPA works. And it has been extremely helpful and stressful and anxiety filled and successful process. So we voted, we had 2 choices of purchasers of the building. Originally, there was 1 purchaser, and then we went through the RFP process looking to see if anyone else, because that is an option you have, who a developer, our lawyer did the work, who was phenomenal and recommended to us by DCAG. He's a fantastic lawyer. So if you're looking for somebody who knows housing inside and out, and apartments. His name is Eric Rowe. I can't speak high enough about him. So we, with the TOPA process, we were able to put an RFP out. W.C. Smith was the only organization company that said yes, they're interested, especially in this very tight, wonky financial market. And that was the winner after a lengthy process. We voted 124 for W.C. Smith and 12 for the other organization, which was
That's
True
great.
Ground.
So we look forward to hearing from the Office of the Tenant Advocate to give us all, because as you and I have been talking about it, as other commissioners are talking about it, there's a lot to understand about what this process is. And ANC3F has a lot of apartment buildings, and we really want to understand how this works. So we're really excited to have a primer this evening on it.
And I think it's also important that residents in 3F and out and the greater audience understand how this is so important for the renter to have a voice. I think it is very much laden in law and policy, but it works.
Right.
So,
And you
thank
can
you.
figure it out. It seems complicated, but we can figure it out. And we're lucky to have the best here to help us through it. Thank you. And congratulations. I'm glad that it worked out for your building. And I know it was a lot of hard work on your part, forming a tenants association on the fly and really organizing everyone. It was a Herculean effort. So I'm glad it worked out the way the beyond majority wanted it to.
Thank you.
It's
Although I have to
scary.
give credit to our president. She was the Herculean in herself. But thank you.
Amazing. Takes a village. Okay. Moving on. Streets and sidewalks. Amy.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to provide a quick update on the Alton Place sidewalk. So ANC3F has continued advocating behind the scenes with DDOT and Councilmember Fruman's office. Shout out to our chair to amplify the voices of the residents of Alton who are opposing the new sidewalk. I know that community members on Alton are also pursuing with Councilmember Fruman and considering other options as well. And thank you, shout out to Isaac, if you're here, for your work on organizing neighbors. So as for next steps, it was recommended to me that the best course of action to do something fast, as time is of the essence in this particular situation, was for me as the ANC commissioner to write a letter to DDOT as part of the official comment period for the sidewalk, which ends later in June. So I've posted the letter and some other updates to my blog. And as always, email me if you'd like to talk. Happy to set up a call, meeting, happy to come out to Alton Place. Thank you. Over.
Could you remind me of your blog's URL, Commissioner Roth?
Yes, I will. I'll put it in the chat for you to post.
Thank you. Parks and Watersheds, Mitchell Bear.
Good evening. I have just a quick report. I've had several members of my committee come to me and ask that I say a word about the budget for DOEE that looks like it's going to get fairly decimated in the 2026 iteration from the mayor. People are concerned that it's going to stop necessary projects from going forward, that it will eliminate or greatly reduce the maintenance of existing projects that are in the region, in the 3F area, and will cut back on staff that is very, very much needed for environmental protection in and around the 3F area and in the district itself. And I turn back my remaining time to the chair.
Great, thank you. Maybe we can talk to Director Hanlon, see how he feels about that. I mean, I'm sure everyone wants to give money to that. because why wouldn't you? Let's work on that, and maybe we could put an agenda item on for next month, Commissioner Bear, or something, in conjunction with Matt English's presentation. After that, we can have a theme, a DOE thematic section.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Love a theme. Schools and universities, Commissioner Guzman.
Good evening, everyone. Not much to report, except that the merch effort regarding safe routes to school continues. Commissioner Carlson and I were out with representatives from the contractor that's been hired to do that project. And we observed drop off and pickup, both sides on Davenport and Ellicott, and got a lot of good work done. So we're looking forward to seeing the report, hearing the recommendations, and if anybody has any questions, you can reach out to me.
I think we'd love to hear from more merch parents. Sue and I observed it after having lived it for many years. It's different to observe it than to be in the thick of it again. So we talked to a lot of parents, but we will always would want to talk to more. I think there's a survey going out directly to current merch families to from the school, from the contractor, right? It's imminently. So be on the lookout. Before summer, do we know?
I'm sorry?
For the summer, Sue? I mean, the summer is like now.
No, it already went out. The
Oh,
survey
okay, good.
already went out before the school year let out, although I haven't looped back with the contact at the contractor to see what kind of results they got.
Yeah, well, maybe we can push it out or try and get more people.
Yeah, I think we could push it out. I can put it on my Instagram. That's a good idea. Okay.
Where it's at. Okay, thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, so we are in the meat of our agenda. We have the Department of Buildings Agency Director, Brian Hanlon here. Director Hanlon, thank you so much for coming to our little meeting. We're very happy to have you. We think about buildings all the time here.
Well, thank you for having me. And I'll just say I've got with me, everybody can hear me, right?
Yes.
Great. I have with me our Deputy Director, Shilpa Khatri, and my Chief of Staff, Alex Cross. So they've joined the call as well. And good evening, ANC3F and Van Ness Main Streets. Again, I'm Brian Hanlon. I'm the Director of the Department of Buildings, actually a native Washingtonian and grew up not far from right off Tenley Circle. So I want to thank you for having me here today to present Mayor's 2026 Grow DC budget. I believe the budget supports a bold vision for growing DC into a stronger, more inclusive, and frankly, resilient city for all residents. I'm going to spend a few moments walking through some of the elements, and I'm not going to read every word on the slide. I just want to give a flavor of what's contained in the budget.
We appreciate that. We love that.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff in here. If you want to learn more about the budget, budget.dc.gov. If I could ask Alex or Shilpa to just put that in the chat, budget.dc.gov. There will be some questions I may not be able to answer. I know more about my agency than other issues, and I'll just move forward. So Kendall, thank you, is advancing the slide. So we'll go to this slide. I'm going to start with some, I think, good news. 2024, a lot of good things happened. Strong rebound in 2024. We have faster population growth than any state. We saw violent crime drop to the lowest levels in 30 years. Our schools continue to be the fastest growing, or fastest improving urban district. Record tourism, 26 million visitors. We are right now leading the nation in converting office space to housing. And we've had 28 clean audits, 29 balanced budgets, and maintained 52 days of cash on hand. So we're in a really strong position as we sail into some, frankly, pretty challenging times. So let's go to the next slide. We've had a curveball, of course, with the continuing resolution, the gap that it caused, and the spending pressures. And it's put a lot of pressure on certainly the mayor, and I think her leadership has been pretty amazingly steadfast and stalwart. Had to work to close the gap. So a lot of challenges. avoided furloughs and layoffs. Every agency has undergone a hiring freeze and had to go through non-personnel costs and cut back on contract expenditures and things of that nature, while we've continued to work to deliver services. There's some other tactics that the mayor has been able to use, shifting some spending to later years, managing to preserve key investments and addressing urgent financial pressures. So let's go to the next slide. We're right now looking at potential federal government job losses, and I've heard as many as 40,000 job losses that are potentially going to be lost. So again, real economic headwinds. And we're uniquely impacted by those federal job cuts and remote work trends that we're all seeing. Revenue estimates were revised down $1 billion over 4 years due to job losses. That comes from payroll taxes and expenditures and things like that. So that really undergirds the sense of urgency that the mayor brought to preparing this budget. So let's go to the next slide. So a sound budget for a strong future. So the mayor has achieved structural balance without new taxes or dipping into reserves. That means we collect what we spend, and we're not causing we're not going into a debt situation in our budget. We have a structurally balanced budget across the coming years. She has reduced $243 million in spending and avoided nearly $500 million in future obligations. And every agency director has looked at ways to deliver, smarter deployment of resources and cost-effective service delivery. So let's go to the next slide, Kendall. So we have a transformational growth agenda that's kind of built on 3 primary pillars: people, the economy, and job attraction and business. These things are part of a feedback loop, I think. So people, does it keep people and families in DC and attract new residents? Does it create economic activity to fund city services? And does it attract new businesses and create new jobs? Part of my role at DOB, which I'm happy to talk about later, of course, is looking for ways to make it easier to live and work and do business in the district, to reduce that friction. So let's go to the next slide. So here's a couple of examples of what I just talked about in terms of cutting red tape and reducing barriers to growth. Streamlined zoning, repealed burdensome programs. We paused some environmental mandates, which I know are not going to be universally popular. I heard Commissioner Baer's comment earlier, of course. Reduced business fees, taxes, and penalties, and removed barriers to revitalizing vacant lots. We'll go to the next slide. So there's a couple of areas of focus here. One, of course, is leaning hard into sports, entertainment, and tech. I'm sure everybody has been seeing in the news the deal with the Commanders that's right now being scrutinized by council. We are in the midst of transforming Capital One Arena, which I think is going to be a generationally transformative project for downtown and really be a beautiful facility, supporting historic theaters and launching new tech hubs, and expanding gaming options for commercial bingo, live poker, blackjack tournaments to drive entertainment and economic activity. So let's go to the next slide, Kendall. So supporting downtown. Part of the the downtown comeback activations during arena construction and cultural initiatives in Chinatown so that the streets become more active. Increasing new office conversions by expanding the housing in downtown program to Georgetown and Mount Vernon. And I'll tack on that our pop-up permit program, which we initially launched at DOB for downtown, is citywide. In fact, I've met with Gloria Garcia on Van Ness and meet with folks all over the city to try to activate vacant space and revitalizing commercial corridors. And of course, DLCP playing a role in enforcing vending rules. So excuse me, I'm fighting off a cold. We'll go to the next slide. So investing in our schools. The mayor's budget is actually increasing money and investment into the schools, 2.8 billion total investment. It's 123 million increase from FY25. That includes 270 million for DC public schools, teacher raises for DCPS and charter schools, $2 billion for school modernizations. We'll talk, excuse me, a bit about what that will mean in Ward 3. $10 million for tech upgrades, and childcare and early education programs are fully funded. So let's go to the next area, which involves safety. So the mayor's budget is investing in a safe DC. So it has $30 million for MPD officer hiring and technology, $7.3 million for FEMS safety gear and fleet upgrades, their new surveillance tools and enforcement policies, and moving forward on the new DC jail project, the detention facility in Ward 6, or that may be Ward 7 now. Let's go to the next slide, Kendall. Investing in a clean DC, $4.6 million to support Clean Corridors initiative with 80 Department of Public Works staff, $244,000 for DLCP vending enforcement team to work nights and weekends. And then in concert with Clean Corridors, $1.8 million for DOB nuisance abatement fund to help address residential property maintenance and housing code violations. We'll go to the next slide. Excuse me. Investing in housing, affordable housing, and economic development. So we're back to $100 million in the Housing Production Trust Fund, $23 million for the Home Purchase Assistance Program. We have new communities that we're seeing in Berry Farm, Bruce Monroe, Park Morton, and Northwest One, and economic development investments, including $6 million in repairs for the National Theater, the Lincoln Theater, and the Howard Theater. So let's go to the next slide, Kendall. Now we've got libraries and recreation centers. So investing in the places where community happens, $166 million for 6 modernized libraries, $188 million for upgraded rec centers and pools, and an $89 million year-round youth sportsplex at RFK for indoor track, gymnastics, and more. Let's go to the next slide, Kendall. So we've got investing in health, $97 million to support increased costs for Medicaid services, $300 million for Safe at Home to serve 795 seniors on wait list and expand DACLs, that's the Department of Aging and Community Living, home delivered meals program for 150 seniors. Next slide, investing in human services. We're expanding support for our most vulnerable residents, $18.9 million to increase continuum of care for homeless services, $7.6 million for permanent supportive housing for 156 families, and changes to the TANF to control growing costs while keeping support in place. And TANF, of course, is temporary assistance for needy families. So let's go to the next slide. Investing in transportation and the environment. So building a more connected and sustainable DC, $76 million in WMATA bus lanes and pedestrian tunnels, $6 million to provide transportation for students to school in Ward 7 and 8 safe passage zones, and $13 million to expand Capital Bike Share, and $74 million to build out the pedestrian bike trail network. So let's go to the next slide, Kendall. So now we're investing in government operations, and $7.9 million for DC Public Schools repairs and maintenance, $2.1 million to enhance cybersecurity, 853, I think that's 1,000 for cyber, 8 million rather for cybersecurity infrastructure, and building a new home for the DC archives at the Charles Sumner School. And that is the budget. Now I'm gonna highlight a couple of specific Ward 3 investments, and I'll just go through them briefly here. So $24 million to modernize the Chevy Chase Library, $15 million to modernize the Recreation Center in Chevy Chase, $51 million to modernize the and renovate public schools. And I actually don't, I'm looking for my list of those, but I can't find them, but there are several schools. Here it is. The schools that are receiving those funds.
Yeah, on the right, it looks like ones who've already been done, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, there was, I think, forgive me, I'll get that to you later. I thought I had the list in front of me, but I don't. Forgive me.
That's fine.
So, I believe that takes us to the end, Kendall. And so again, budget.dc.gov. If you've got questions, you can come in, and I'm sure everybody's calling their council member and sharing your opinions on the various facets of the budget. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I'll do my best to answer them.
We're happy to take, if members of the community want to raise your hand, ask a question. Commissioners, do you have questions? Commissioner Rothman.
Hi, I have a really quick question. Thank you so much, Director Hanlon. Can you please post, if possible, the contact info for the tech industry incentive program? I think there are some people losing jobs in this area that might be very interested in getting plugged in.
I will if I can get it. Kendall, if you've got that, please post it. Otherwise, who is the best person for us to share that back with? Would that be you, Commissioner Carlson?
Sure, you can, yeah, if you send it to me, I'll make sure people get it.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thank you for that. Thank you.
This is a lot to digest quickly. Are you able to share the actual presentation itself?
I believe so. I
Yeah.
don't see why not, because it's being given all over the city, but I think you can
Also
download
online.
it.
Yeah.
I believe if you go to budget.dc.gov, you can download a PDF or just save it.
And I can send it to you, Chair Carlson.
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't get to look at it before the meeting because there was a lot in there and it was a little bit hard to keep up. Can I go to your role as director of your agency? We love our buildings and we've been pretty focused on what's happening in our buildings. Recently, Commissioner Rothman, I believe it was 2 months ago, did one of our most spoken about resolutions that we've ever had, which was the indoor air pollution. Just in terms of like feedback from so many people about indoor air pollution in their buildings, how they, people have kids, the joint HVAC systems, people feel like, they're smoking, marijuana or tobacco in their own smoke-free apartments. Can you speak to that a little bit and how Department of Buildings can address that real serious quality of life issue?
Yeah, to be perfectly frank, I am still looking into it myself, and I think it's got some complexities to it because it involves behavior that's out on the street. I think, and
I think it's just in apartments. I think it's the HVAC that transmits the indoor smoke in. I mean, yeah, you're right. It's behavior because it's people smoking in non-smoking buildings.
Yeah.
But we would really be interested in hearing more about that because it is something that lit a fire, which is a bad probably way to phrase this under a lot of people in ANC3F. That it was, I mean, I guess not surprising because you can stand on the street and smell it. But imagine being in your own apartment building, as we heard from so many parents of small children who say, this one woman said, I'm telling my kid, no smoking, no smoking, no smoking.
And it's everywhere, right?
It's in his bedroom.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, the honest, I think where we are now is the problem has so many facets to it, and you've got buildings of varying degrees of age and condition, and their HVAC systems are different. Older legacy buildings have maybe they're more permeable systems. More modern buildings may have tighter, more airflow, but I think it's going to be a complex problem to solve, and I don't have an immediate answer for you now. I'm sorry. We're going to have
Yeah, I know that, and one other thing I'll mention that just we've heard, and that someone just reminded me also, is that we have residents who are basically like putting their own sort of jerry-rigged
Yeah,
filtering systems on their own vents. So I
we,
mean, it sort of dovetails right into sort of one of our other issues that we've worked on, which was most of us testified about the SAFE Act, which had a lot of Department of Buildings aspects to it, right? And the safety of the actual building, not just, behavior, but like propping open doors, making sure locks happen, lighting at entrances. Since that has no future, sadly, can you talk a little bit about that and what you're doing and your agency is doing to try and take some of the ideas of the SAFE Act, which, I think were widely agreed upon as things that maybe the landlord community felt were hardships, but the tenant community, again, just bleeding into our next
yeah.
tenant advocate as well, this, we think these are vital to people feeling safe in their homes.
Yeah, and our mission at DOB is in support of housing code and building code. Now we want to make sure that residents feel safe, and if we receive a complaint, we go out and we inspect, and we'll cite a condition, and we'll hold the landlord accountable for that. Issue of a notice of infraction and hold them accountable. One of the things that we're doing now with a lot more vigor, and I have said this, I've said this a number of times in the last couple of months. I think most landlords, small, medium, large, most of them I think are acting in good faith and want to provide safe and habitable living environments. But there are folks out there that are bad actors. And one of the things that I'm mindful of at the Department of Buildings is I have to be very careful to husband my resources so that we are going after the most egregious and most serious issues out there. And so that's always our challenge, is we get spread so thin so fast. And so we've been paying more attention, and I know, Commissioner, this isn't quite answering your question, but we've been paying more attention to the folks out there that are indeed bad actors. And you may have seen recently our blitz on a landlord named Raz Julian, who's somewhat infamous in the city. And there are others that we are going after. But if we've got smaller level things, and I don't mean to diminish, a porous building that has, locks that aren't working, we'll send folks out there and we'll issue violations. And we work pretty closely with Councilmember Fruman's office. We're still working closely to hold the landlord for 3003 Van Ness accountable. They're not moving quite as fast as we'd like, but we're putting pressure on them to keep moving. So for us, it's a balancing act to make sure that our resources don't get spread too thin.
So that brings us back to the budget. I think maybe it was page 13 that had I might not be right about that, but how do you feel like your resources, like, can you give us sort of talk a little bit about how this budget will help and will hinder you?
Well, it strengthens it puts us on par with our prior year spending for nuisance abatement. And the way we spend our nuisance abatement monies, and DPW does, like, for instance, trash pickup. If somebody's dumping trash, they're a bit more they're built to do that in a way that we're not quite built to do that. We have fewer vehicles, fewer people, but we do use that money pretty strategically, and we use it with kind of a three-layered focus. One is a lot of it goes towards cosmetic stuff. Vacant and blighted properties, it's part of our purview. People call us up, we go out and inspect. If a property's deemed vacant or it's blighted or there's just a lot of overgrowth and we don't get a response from the owner, we'll go out and, we don't get a response from the owner, we'll go out and abate it. And that's how we use a portion of that money. A good portion of it is actually used for contracting out work. And that's when we have the most serious things. And we have to, every year I've been in the job now 2 years, and each year there's been a couple of issues that were, my first year, we prevented, excuse me, we prevented a building from collapsing. And that was one of those, that was a $330,000 or $50,000 expenditure. That's a big hit out of a budget of $1.5 million. So we have to spend that money really carefully. The mayor is taking us back to a bit more than we were in the prior year. So we're going to continue to deliver the services that we have been. And you know, so if anything, we're kind of at least on par with where we were last year, and we're going to work to be more responsive. And we're working closely. In this past year, the mayor kind of spun up a Clean Corridors program, and it includes a couple of agencies, but primarily in some ways DPW and DOB. And we work pretty closely with them to kind of share information, who's closer, who can do it better, who can do it faster. So, you know, I think I'm satisfied with what the mayor's given us there.
Thank you. I'm gonna go to two questions from the community. And then I know you're hurting here, so I'll try and let you go.
Take some
Thank you.
NyQuil and go to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for bearing through it. Jeannie or Jean?
Hi, it's Jeannie. Thank you.
Hi,
There
Jeannie.
are news reports today that the proposed budget includes hours reductions for public libraries, including a possible closure of public libraries on the weekends. Can you talk to that?
Cannot. I have not heard that. And I'm sure that Kendall can look that up and we can get back to you on that, but I hadn't heard that.
Wow, I hadn't heard that either. Thank you for bringing that up, because if that's true, we all want to know if that is true. Thank you.
Jeannie, I've put my email in the chat a while up, or Adrian did that for me. So if you wanted to shoot me a quick email with your question, I'll get back to you with an answer once I talk to the budget director.
Copy all of us, Kendall. That's
You
a
got
big,
it.
yeah, we can't be having libraries closed on weekends.
Thank you, Kendall.
Terry.
Hi, thanks. Thank you so much for your time. In reference to buildings that are smoke-free, the Avalon buildings, I did a quick search in DC, are all smoke-free. My building's in Avalon, I know it's a smoke-free building, and one of the struggles our property management has had are individuals who are smoking marijuana, and they're not supposed to, as well as any other smoke. That's a big struggle for property management. So I understand 311, it's here for the residents. How do you work with property managers who are having to, I want to say, I'll say remind, because I'm certain there's a much more appropriate word that property management would use to engage residents. But speaking to the regional manager off and on for the last couple of years, this is a problem. How does DOB address that?
Well, I may ask Keith, I mean, rather, I don't think Keith's on, but Alex may step in here. But when we're talking about tenant behavior and maybe restrictions that a certain residence has, the Department of Buildings does not directly engage in that. We're there to look at housing code violations, things that have to do with the property maintenance code and the building code. And while things like noise and smoke are perhaps obnoxious, it doesn't fall within my purview. It may be, and forgive me, I've got to find out. I think that we have the Office of the Tenant Advocate here, and Johanna may be able to address your question. It's not something that we have had to deal with yet.
So thank you so much for that response. I'm actually asking not as a tenant, I'm asking as a tenant who the property management, they wouldn't call the Office of Tenant Advocacy if they're trying to uphold policy and I mean, just keep in mind, young lungs, aging lungs.
Yes.
I think it affects its residents, but
So if it's
how does
not so if it's not, so what you're saying, if I because I'm trying to understand this myself, but if you're in an old building and the HVAC system is what the HVAC system is, and it doesn't segregate one apartment's air
Right.
from another,
It does
not a code
in our building.
violation. It just stinks. I was trying not to say the S word because I would, but it's a terrible situation.
It
It
less
stinks.
than optimal, right? And it's not, and we're talking about things that are not technically code violations. And so
How, with your wise buildings perspective though, would you be able to point us in a direction that might help us understand how we could further this if it's not your agency? Where do you, or could you just think about it and get back to us? We'd love to try and
I'd love-
brainstorm about this because it really, I mean, it's a real problem.
happy
I
to
would also say that our AC systems are actually segregated. They are not interconnected.
well, and most newer buildings are in fact just like that. They've got individual packages for every single unit, but you
Right.
still have hallways and things like that where the airflow can get into the hallway and travel. So
Sure, no, I understand that, but I think it's the other way. If for example, the building wasn't smoke-free and you're adhering to DC law, and here's, someone is smoking next door, which does happen and it's been reported. I get that. You would bring in OTA, you would 311, but the property owner is struggling with having the resident adhere to the policy that they signed on as part of their lease. Also keeping in mind that marijuana smoke, you could, there are codes to that, what you can and can't do. How do we help this property manager who is,
Well,
it's a large building, help
think-
them
yeah, Commissioner
help
Carlson
us?
invited me to think about it, which I commit to doing. I'm going to turn around and go back to my team and then reach out across government and see what are resources. And
We'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much. That's you'll check is a totally acceptable answer, right? We don't have to put you on the spot at 8 o'clock at night.
Definitely works. Thank you.
One more thing I would ask, and I don't know if you can answer this, but going back to the stadium and that slide, which at the bottom talked about gambling and sports betting, which is kind of a regressive way to make money, as opposed to sort of these other items on that sort of sports and entertainment. I mean, I am also a DC native, so I remember how it was not how many names ago was Capital One Arena, the Verizon Center or something else. You transformed, right, the MCI Center. That's right. How took a neighborhood that wasn't and made it into what it is now. So I really appreciate that. Whereas the sports betting, gambling, that's really a totally different way to make money, sort of on the backs of residents. Can you speak to that a little bit? Knowing that you make that choice, but just in terms of representing what the mayor's thinking on it.
I think that it says gaming opportunities, not gambling.
Oh, okay.
It says expand gaming opportunities to allow for commercial bingo. So I guess there is some gambling.
And that's what that
live,
is. It's gambling,
live
sports
poker.
betting. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't say any sports betting, but
Okay, so gaming, but that's slots and I mean that's what that
it
is.
just says
right?
live poker and blackjack tournaments. So I think that large commercial spaces are at times activated for events that are other than, the sports that it was intended. So in terms of RFK, I
It
think
just was on the same slide. It just seems a little bit incongruous with, what the other ways that we're trying to lift up the city, and ways that I think, and as a native, you sort of see money being made in ways that doesn't lift everyone up necessarily,
yeah, understood.
for what it's worth. Okay, well, listen, thank you so much. I see that you probably need to get your NyQuil. Well, I'll give a shout out to the Roy Rogers and the Fixins Bar of the Tenley town of old. Thank you for being here. And we
Oh
look
my
forward to
goodness.
working with you more.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
And now we have the Office of the Tenant Advocate, and we're really lucky to have another agency director, Johanna Shreve. Thank you so much, Director Shreve, for being here with us. This is such an important issue for this community. As you've already heard within the context of this meeting. Is she found? I saw her. I admitted her. I know she's here.
I've asked you to unmute Joanna, but she might just be away from the computer right now.
Okay. We're gonna give her a couple of seconds and then we'll just go out of order. That's okay. It was a hefty budget. She might have thought it would have taken longer. Okay, so
Is Joel on the call? I think he is.
He is, and I'm so sorry, Joel. I thought that I had accidentally I thought the unmuting was an accident, and I muted you again. Joel's definitely here.
Okay. I think he was trying to speak,
I
right?
apologize, Joel.
No, well, no, actually, I think Johanna is fully prepared to speak. So I sort of like the going out of order because I do think Director Shreve has remarks she'd like to make and take questions. I'm on hand to answer questions as she wants to pass the questions on to me. That's my role here.
Okay, do you want me to move ahead?
I think so. I'll message Director Shreve and let her know that she's on. Her time has come.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll just go straight to DDOT and then we'll circle back to you guys. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, DDOT, Connecticut Avenue Safety Improvements. Ted Van Houten.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me today.
Good, thank you. We have your presentation queued
Great.
up. Adrian? So, Ted, there are several members of myself and Bob who are both here, and Paul Harrison from the Connecticut Avenue group that has looked at this over time. So we're all very excited to see what you have here.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for having me. Good to see all of you. I am here to give you all an update on the Connecticut Avenue Multimodal Safety Improvement Project. We were last to the community at the CAC meeting end of last year to communicate the new focus of this project, which is now on specific intersections along the corridor instead of corridor-wide improvements for the roadway. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. There we are. So we'll just give you an update on the work that we've been doing these last couple of months. We'll show you maps of the intersections that we are proposing improvements at. And then we'll go into the ones in detail that are in ANC3F. And then we'll talk through the implementation plan and then what you can expect as far as next steps. So next slide. So the project currently has $7.1 million over the next 2 years to implement safety improvements along Connecticut Avenue. We are focusing our improvements on key intersections where we're proposing to advance critical safety upgrades. I should note that nothing that we're proposing in any of the intersections are something that couldn't preclude us from doing future corridor-wide improvements if funding or other situations present themselves.
Can you this is a $7 million budget for spot safety along the entire corridor. Can you give us a sense of how much is being spent in 3F? Because is that broken down?
That's for the whole, that's not just for
Right,
3F,
yeah.
that's for the entire corridor.
Okay,
Yep.
sorry, go ahead.
Okay, next slide, please. So a number of things that we looked at is we looked at the crash history, and we did a lot of analysis on that crash history. We focused on locations that have uncontrolled pedestrian crossings. We looked at intersections that have particularly challenging geometry to see if there were opportunities to redesign them. We looked at sightline obstructions, and this is a good picture of one that's in your area, Connecticut and Nebraska. Spoiler alert, we may have more information on this intersection a little bit later, but this is a good example of sightline obstructions at that location. And then we kind of looked at all of that and then did more detailed analysis. So next slide. So we looked at several years of crash data and pulled in a lot of other inputs. And through that process, we identified a number of intersections that we wanted to advance some safety improvements at. So the crashes were weighed if they included a fatality or a serious injury or involved a pedestrian or bicyclist. Those were given more weight in our analysis. And
The
then
little dots are how many crashes, like, for example, does that little dot at Nebraska indicate?
So this is like a heat map of crashes along Connecticut Avenue. And basically what this map is showing is that most of them are concentrated at intersections instead of being mid-walk. To address the crashes, we developed recommendations and then cost estimates, and then did a cost benefit analysis and came up with a ratio for every single intersection. And then what we did is that's what we used to prioritize the intersections, and then which we sorted into 3 tiers. So a tier 1 for the most important ones, down to tier 3 to the ones that are still important, but not as important as the ones that are tier 1 and most crucial. As we go through these intersection improvements, you'll see that they vary from larger interventions as far as a new signal or a hawk or an intersection redesign to smaller interventions, signage, stripings, markings. Next slide, please. So starting south in the corridor, we did want to give you an overview of everything that we're looking exactly at along Connecticut Avenue. We'll go into detail of just the ones in 3F, but for 3C, this is what it looks like. There are 8 intersections. Right, no, 9, because 9, because Tilden is in yours in 3C. So ANC3 has 9 intersections in their area that we have proposed improvements for. Next slide. 3F, this is you. We have 6 intersections that we'll be presenting to you today. And then next slide. And then 3,4G, which has 8 intersections. Could we go back to the slide one? Yeah, could we go back? Okay, so tier 1 is in green. Those are the highest priority, followed by tier 2 in blue, and then tier 3 in pink. So go ahead, 2 slides, we'll start going through. So Nebraska Avenue, what the goals that we're looking for this specific intersection is reducing conflict points, shortening crossing distances, improving sight distances. What we're proposing to do here is closing that slip lane at that southwest corner of Connecticut and Nebraska, and then redesigning that corner. We're also proposing to, there's that signal cabinet that's near the bus stop. We're proposing to move that to help improve sight distance. We're proposing to relocate the bus stops to the far side of the intersection to reduce conflicts with drivers who are turning right. And then also some signage changes at this intersection. Next slide. This is 36th Street. What we're proposing to do here is closing 36th at Everett to shorten that crossing distance down there. And then also at Everett, we're proposing to restrict left turns out of Everett onto Connecticut Avenue. And then some other signage improvements as well.
Right now, there's a timed no left turn. You can't turn left during rush hour, right?
Our proposal would be to make that at all times.
So are you gonna green, you're saying you're closing it, are you greening that section of roadway? Or you're just restricting it from entering off of Connecticut?
So Everett is
The 36, not Everett.
Oh, 36. 36, no changes. That arrow, that's an existing condition.
It says close 36th.
Where does it? Oh yeah, down at Everett Street.
So you're closing that, so there will be no traffic on either side or any vehicular traffic on that section?
No, that would be a curb extension. So if you're north on 36th Street and you're continuing that, you would have to turn off of it and then turn back on it. But pedestrians who are walking would have a shorter crossing at that intersection.
Just across itty bitty little 36th Street, not across. I'm a little bit lost.
Just so the areas that are in red,
Uh-huh.
the roadway would be closed and that would be a curb extension.
Okay, so you can't exit 36th Street to Connecticut past the fire station, nor can you enter from
Yes.
Connecticut. You can't make that left now.
Yeah, you would have to make the turn at Fessenden, or you'd have to make the turn further down.
You could go, no, you can't go straight on Everett because that's a one-way street.
Right. So you'd have to go further to Ellicott, I think is the next road.
Okay, so this is a street that rarely gets turns because it's restricted most of the time and it's a difficult turn to make. So you're just eliminating that.
Yeah, at all times.
Okay.
That's the proposal. Everything we're showing to you today.
It seems very minimal.
I'm also.
If it's okay, if I could go through.
Yeah.
the
I'm
whole
just trying, I
presentation
didn't want to
and then-
pass the slide without understanding what you were doing, because it's
Okay.
not clear. Okay, go ahead, the
Okay.
next slide.
Oh, great. Okay, so next slide. So Chesapeake, this intersection is getting a signal, and that NOI is out. The comment period is closing soon. So the other thing that we're proposing to do here is consolidating bus stops along the corridor. So at this specific intersection, we're proposing to remove them, and then they'd be consolidated to bus stops further up and down the corridor. And then also installing a hardened center line on Connecticut Avenue at Chesapeake to slow left turns. Next slide. Brandywine, the proposal here is to move the bus stops from the near side to the far side of the intersection to reduce conflicts with drivers. And then we'd also put some no turn on red signs at this intersection. Next slide. Albemarle, the proposal here is to, again, move the northbound bus stop to the north side of Albemarle. And then we would be putting in centerline hardening, those the red that you see there.
Can you define centerline hardening?
Yeah,
please?
so you have the yellow center line of the roadway. But what centerline hardening is putting a barrier in the center line so you wouldn't be able to turn across the center line. So that does a number of things. If you're making a left turn at the intersection, it forces you to make that left turn slower. This specific one, our proposal is to have the center line hardening all the way from Albemarle to Yuma, so you wouldn't be able to make a U-turn on Connecticut Avenue. And for any driveways that are on that block, you wouldn't be able to make a left turn out of that driveway. You'd have to make a right.
And
Is the proposal.
what it looks like to one of us, again, before you just advance the next slide, because the slide is on, we want to picture what that is. Is that flexi posts? Is that like a wall? What is that? What does it look like to a driver?
I think there's a variety of things, but I think that the best
Your
descriptor is kind of like a beefier flex post.
Okay.
Next slide. And then the last intersection, Tilden. Our proposal here is to improve the bike lane crossing by striping green paint across the intersection. And then these little red things here are concrete turn wedges, again, to slow turning drivers at this intersection. We'd also propose to put LPI, a leading pedestrian interval, at this location.
Is that just for those of us who don't know what your terminology
Yeah,
is?
sure.
That's a butt. Is that when you butt out the corner?
Leading pedestrian interval is when the pedestrian signal precedes the green light by a couple of seconds, and that's what we propose.
It gives
to
you a
do
head
here.
start.
Yep, it gives pedestrians and bicyclists can use that as well, so that they can create a presence in the intersection, so that they're visible, so that cars making the turns are more likely to see them and more likely to slow down.
That's also a zero cost safety improvement, right?
I mean, I think there is some cost as far as labor and programming, but you know, it's something that we don't need to redo the signal to put something like that in.
Right.
Okay. So next slide. So as far as the next steps of this project, the $7.1 million is allocated over 2 years. Right now, we anticipate that the intersection improvements, and this is not just for the ones that we presented to you today, but for the whole corridor, would take the next 2 to 3 years to be implemented. For anything that has a change to traffic or impacts to parking, we would definitely do a notice of intent for those. For any of these intersections, we're happy to continue individual outreach. If you all think that we should do, you know, a walk or a site visit, or, you know, neighbors have questions and they, you know, they want to focus on one of these intersections, we're happy to coordinate a meeting. I should note, with some of these intersections are already in the next step as far as implementation. We've gotten them into existing projects. The one that most of the four, we've got 4 of those. 3 of them are kind of outside of your area, Calvert Street and McKinley Street. We've got into existing projects, and those will be implemented this summer. And then the signal at Chesapeake, we're also putting a hawk at Legation north of you. Those 2 will be implemented summer of next year. Next slide. I also want to mention our strategic bikeways plan. Of course, you know, there's a lot of interest about, you know, from this project and from others about improving the bike network in Ward 3. We are currently working on the existing condition analysis, and we're planning for public engagement activities across all 8 wards of the district. So that's a summary slide of kind of what's going on with the strategic bikeways plan. And then also we have the website here where you can learn more and get involved in that process. So that's
Thanks.
all I have.
Can we go to questions from commissioners, please?
Yeah, I just want to quickly note, if anyone has questions, that's or wants to get in contact, that's my email and phone number.
We can see
and then
that.
that's the website. So
Yeah, we can see that. Thank you.
All right.
We're
Happy to
going
answer your questions.
get some questions from commissioners.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Guzman.
Has there been coordination done with safe routes to school and buses to Merch and Deal? Because that Everett 36 proposal you have directly conflicts with, I know, with the routes that the buses take to bring the self-contained classroom kids to merch?
Yeah, do you mean those buses make the left turn?
Yes, yes, exactly.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, we have coordinated with our Safe Routes to School team. They've reviewed these. Like I said, these are continuing. Nothing that I presented to you today is happening tomorrow. So you know, we want to make sure that we're getting comments and incorporating concerns. So we're
Yeah, I
happy to
guess-
follow up with them on those bus movements specifically.
I guess Safe Routes to School wouldn't be the group to contact about that. You would need to contact the transportation office of DCPS. I mean, this is a common issue that I've seen in my time as commissioner. Like things like this come out, these grand plans or um, changes that the agencies haven't actually talked to each other about how they impact each other. And it's very frustrating for like the practical user, right? Like that school is in my neighborhood. My daughter used to go there. Her friends actually would ride that bus. I mean, I see the lack of coordination on ground zero in my neighborhood. And so that is actually one of the reasons I became a commissioner is because I'm like, there needs to be more talking, more coordination. So that's just what I'm sitting here, you know, holding you accountable a little bit for really digging deep and connecting with all the pieces that are in our neighborhood before these changes get too far down the road and they're done and then it's realized that um, they're actually hindering and not helping.
As we said on the phone, all those state first to school contractors that Sue and I met with, like, seems relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think, right, like the transportation office of DCPS might not be like at the top of your list to coordinate with, but somebody really needs to thoughtfully like be in our neighborhood and think about all the institutions and the businesses and where people are walking, what kind of public transportation they're taking, all of that before things are put into motion. And I'm sorry to shoot the messenger here, Ted, but I'm just advocating for one of the things that I think needs to be changed in DC government. There needs to be more communication between the agencies before action is taken and money is spent.
Sure. No, thanks for that. I should note that you know, there's still time to make changes to what we presented today, and that's exactly why that we're here today to hear from you all as far as things that we should flag. So we're happy to.
But Ted, I'll gonna go to Mitch, but I will say, I mean, I've been on the CAC and none of the things that the CAC suggested are in there, many of which are absolutely zero budget items.
Do you want to give me some examples of
Like
things that you're
this
looking at?
ANC did a resolution requesting daylighting at intersections around March.
On Connecticut Avenue?
Yep, well, Connecticut and the corners.
Yeah. When did you pass that resolution?
I'd have to go back. It's
Okay.
been some time, but I mean, it's been some time, but I also brought it up. I don't know, I've brought it up every time I've had a conversation with DDOT in the last year, including at the CAC presentation.
January 14th of this year.
Oh,
you,
thank you, Adrian.
Johnny on the spot. And then, for example, like you just offered to have people come and walk with you. Like we've walked with you. I've walked and walked and walked and walked and walked. Since my daughter was in first grade at Merch and she is a rising senior in college, I have walked with DDOT and I have talked about those intersections and nothing that parents have talked about at that last meeting that no DDOT employee showed up for, where Sue and I were and your contractors were. No intersection that was discussed by any Merch parent is in that. Most
I was just
notably,
going
you
to
you
say,
talked in the thing about the challenging geometry. The most challenging geometry is Chevy Chase Parkway and Connecticut Avenue, and that's nowhere to be found in this. Again, it's challenging, but that is a messed up intersection, and parents, every single time I walk with anyone we talk about, every single time I talk to a parent, they talk about that intersection. I mean, the things you've done, you're moving bus stops, you're like not even like, you talked about 36, like the other side of 36 is, and that's not exactly Connecticut Avenue, but it's certainly Connecticut Avenue right there. We've talked about eliminating the slip lane that is there. I mean,
Sure.
nothing. And it is like, I'm sorry, because I don't feel like I usually feel like this, but I am so frustrated because we are just spilling air, spilling time, walking the blocks of Connecticut Avenue, and nothing changes. And we're like, oh, let's walk again before we do this project. Well, no, like we've already done it. We've told you, parents have told you, like the streets and sidewalks people have told you, Bob Dialing has told you, Paul Harrison has told you for years. And like none of it's reflected. And I
Okay.
get that you don't have a lot of money, but again, what I've learned over my time in advocating for this is a lot of the things aren't really that expensive. We get that you only have the $7.1 million left, but like, I just, okay, go ahead, Commissioner Bear, sorry.
Can I actually respond to that?
Sure.
Okay, so you mentioned Chevy Chase Harrison and you mentioned the slip lane
Chase
up in
Parkway.
Fessenden. And I want to respond to both of those. We looked at both those locations. We looked at both those intersections. Unfortunately, Chevy Chase Harrison, the
Chevy Chase Parkway.
Chevy Chase
what?
Oh, Chevy Chase
Parkway.
Harrison
Chevy
on the other
Chase and
side. Okay,
Harrison.
I got it,
yes.
I got it.
Okay, so that intersection, we looked at it, and it just, in our analysis, it just fell into a lower priority. And I know that might be surprising to hear, but that's what happened with our analysis. I think if we had, I think
Based on people not having died or been hit, or
crash data, we have 4 years of crash data, and there were less crashes there than there were in some other locations when we did our analysis. So I understand that that is an intersection that the community is very concerned about. We hear that. I think if we had some more budget, there's potentially something that we could do there, but at the moment, we're not able to cover it, but it's something that we'll continue to try to advance either through this project or potentially through something else. So I'm not presenting that to you today. It's not part of the project currently, but I think I would say if there's like one intersection along the corridor that we could add, it would be that one. But it just didn't shake out. So it's not, so if we looked at every single intersection, there may be some intersections that weren't included. But it doesn't mean we didn't look at them, and it doesn't mean we didn't ignore them. Let me also bring up 36th and Fessenden. We did look at closing the slip lane on 36th between Connecticut and Fessenden. Unfortunately, that's needed for truck movements, for trucks to access the backside of businesses on Connecticut between Fessenden and Nebraska. If we close that slip lane, they can't make that right turn from Connecticut to Fessenden and then make the next turn back onto 36. So
that I totally
unfortunately,
understand.
so again, we looked at it. We looked at that. We looked at Chevy Chase and Harrison.
That intersection,
and
even if you take that out of it, that intersection is massively problematic. It's the main crossing. You've got a DDOT employee there. It is the main crossing for safe routes to school. And it is, and even in the time that, again, from my daughter's first grade to now, and she's 21, like there for a time we eliminated one of the crosswalks, the south side of the street crosswalk on Connecticut, because you have a backlog on Fessenden of people waiting to turn left during rush hour. And like, whereas that deprioritizes pedestrians, which is problematic, it also keeps them safer because you force them to cross on the north side of the street when people aren't trying to, like, getting frustrated, trying to squeeze around and turn into them. Like that, again, it's such low hanging fruit and it seems.
which
seemingly
crosswalk is this?
The south side of Fessenden Street going across Connecticut.
Going across Connecticut.
So that's been eliminated in
the
the past, and then it was it was restriped because it was like they were deprioritizing pedestrians, but you're actually making pedestrians less safe because like especially because we have a crossing guard there a lot of the time, you could keep the south side, I'm sorry, you could keep this north side crossing and keep pedestrians off of the side
South
that people or commuters are trying to race downtown.
So
which
you're
is
saying
unfortunate.
I'm gonna make sure I understand. At
Mhm.
Connecticut and Fessenden, there are 4 crosswalks, and you want us to get rid of one of them?
I mean, not necessarily, but I'm looking for like inexpensive safety improvements that would help keep pedestrians safe. And it seems like you could do something there that would keep that crossing safer for kids because you'd funnel everyone to one side. It existed in the past as a solution. I don't know if that's the right solution, but like if you're looking for ways that you're not spending money, it seems like one of them.
Okay, well, we can take another look at the crosswalks there.
I mean, it's probably out of what one would do to deprioritize. I mean, prioritize like cars over pedestrians, but like the fact is the fact. Now, Commissioner Bear, it really is your turn. I'm sorry that I've been ranting.
Ted, I want you to take down my phone number. It's
Okay.
202-779-3399. I want you to give me a call and I want you to come out and walk with me to the corner of Albemarle and Connecticut because the car wash creates a huge danger for pedestrians there. And I want you to come and walk with me and see what's happening because of the traffic that's going into the car wash. People coming from Tenleytown on Albemarle trying to make a right-hand turn on Connecticut are forced to do dangerous things to make that right-hand turn because the traffic going into the car wash extends up to Albemarle and then around the corner towards Tenleytown with cars trying to get in there. I want you to please give me a call and walk with me because there's a elementary school on the eastern side, the Montessori school,
Yeah,
that
yes.
parents have to walk across Connecticut because DC Water has prolonged its project at Albemarle on 32nd Street for so long that parents have to park on Albemarle and then walk across. And it's dangerous for them to walk across with their kids in the morning and at noon, at nighttime to get to school. And people ignore the fact that they shouldn't be making the right-hand turn when they can, but they can't because of that car wash. So I want you to give me a call and we're going to walk that and we're going to figure it out. And I know that you guys
The
aren't
point being
doing.
also that it's not just because Mitch that there's no crashes there. You're not understanding
Yeah.
what's occurring at that intersection. If you're not at Albemarle in Connecticut, if you're not at Fessenden in Connecticut, yeah, it sounds kooky for me to be like, oh yeah, let's eliminate a crosswalk right near a school. It's like it's the talkings of a crazy person that doesn't like pedestrians. Like it doesn't seem credulous, but it's not like you're not seeing what's happening in the real world. You have to walk with Mitch. He's exactly right.
Yeah.
All right. I think in the absence of any more questions, we have to move on because
One other thing I just want to say,
yeah.
Ed, please, please, please pass on to whoever was supposed to be at the Safe Routes to School
I have.
from DDOT that they weren't there. It was offensive to everyone, to the school, to this commission. It was bad form.
I talked to Regina about it, and she said she's welcome to speak with you all at any time about that to follow up on that. So I've talked to her, and she
Okay.
said that she's happy to have those conversations with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Back to the regularly scheduled program. Director Shreve.
Oh,
Finally,
I'm
finally.
so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
So
I don't know what happened. I was going, no, I'm here. I'm here.
I know, I'm
I
so
am
sorry. We even
here."
we tried to phone a friend for you. We brought in
No,
Joel.
no, Joel was on the
Yeah.
call and.
Sorry. Okay,
But
and then
I
you had to
heard
see us be
everything Brian
salty
said.
and
I know.
I
I
heard
hope
your
we didn't,
entire.
I hope we didn't scare you. I'm
Yeah.
super
Oh,
sorry,
no,
Director Shreve.
you can't, it's hard to scare me.
Good.
all right. So you're on, and thank you for being here, and thank you
Well,
for being
thank you
with
so
us
much
while we
for
ranted.
asking me to participate. I have been on your program since 7 o'clock. I've listened to all of your presentations, which is what a former community organizer should do, which is what the chief tenant advocate for the city should do, because it's not until you hear the community speak that you know that it is important that they hear from you. So again, Sue, thank you so much. Send you a copy of the TOPA protocol, which we created many years ago, because one of the requests that you gave for me was to talk to you about TOPA. And I heard Ms. Hurt talk about the Avalon. I studied it. I know the players in that particular deal. And I also have done some other research to talk to you about your social concerns about people who live in properties where vouchers may be effective. I listened to Brian, and God bless him for being sick and still coming on tonight. A good colleague that I work with every day, not him necessarily, but his staff. Because as you may or may not be aware, we also run the emergency housing program for the District of Columbia, which I created in 2009. So when there's a fire or a closure in the city, it is my office that puts people in hotels. We are responsible for that. And with my colleague, my policy director, Joel Cohen, who I believe is still on the call, we have developed a program over the course of the last 12 or 15 years to make sure that tenants in the District of Columbia receive services that are not given in any other jurisdiction in this country. When you talk to me about TOPA is a big deal, and you might be aware of the fact that most recently the mayor proposed changes to the TOPA law. If you're not aware, we need to educate you about that, because there will be hearings going on before or after the BSA to try and pass her proposal. And TOPA, as Terry Hunt said about the Avalon, is a very important program. And we believe it is important because it's been in existence for the past 40 years plus. But I wanted to make sure that you were, as a ANC, aware of the things that are going on in the world around us when it relates to housing. There's something called the skinny bill that I'm going to share with you tonight, just as a precursor, because I want you to understand that when you saw that wonderful budget and things that are going on, there are things that are not going on at the federal level. As an example, they will be cutting $3 billion out of the community development block grant program. That program is very much involved in dealing with vacant lots and nuisance properties. It's also very much engaged in dealing with the national objectives in the city, in the country. And when they take that money, meaning the feds, it means that we at the local jurisdiction will not have those funds. It also means that community connections and emergency shelter grants, as well as HOPWA, is going to be put into a block grant program. So I was very impressed to see that the mayor has made some allocations for those funds in the city, because those funds are going to be block granted. They are going to take public housing, rental assistance, and other programs, and they are going to take $21.76 billion nationwide out of those programs, which means that we are going to see less and less money from the federal government coming into the local jurisdiction to assist us in housing affordability. And I must tell you that we at the Office of the Tenant Advocate, who deals with every day on a daily basis, the what I call the human condition, we now know that we have more aging people in place, and we have more dementia, Alzheimer's, and others who are living in these properties that we are now being asked to deal with. When we have an emergency and we find someone in a hotel that doesn't remember their room, that lies on the Office of the Tenant Advocate. So I'm working on programs to assuage those particular areas, which also run up Connecticut Avenue. And let me now talk about Connecticut Avenue, because that is a big deal. When the voucher program was moved by the former DCHA director into our area, we want to give everybody a chance to live wherever they want to live. That is a good thing. But what didn't come with that was the things of the consequences that were associated with that. The Department of the Housing Authority provides grants to the Department of Human Services as well as to the Department of Mental Behavior. And when people cannot live independently in their units, it impacts the communities that we all know people live in. And when that particular happens, there's a conveyor belt sort of effect that they come from the Department of Mental Behavior or they come from the Department of Human Services, and that conveyor belt ends up at the Office of the Tenant Advocate, where I get the complaints that we have people who are not adhering to the rules and regulations that are specified in their lease. Let's talk about one of those, secondhand smoke. When the City Council decided to put into effect social marijuana smoking, the consequences were not even anticipated. And we know, don't we, that you as ANC commissioners hear every day about individuals, and I heard Terry Hall talk about it, and I've heard all of you talk about secondhand smoke in the building. What can we do about it? And Brian says, well, it's not a building code violation, and he's right. I used to work for the National Association of Home Builders, so I know the International Building Code. That is not a building code violation. So what does that mean to us as a community in terms of addressing no smoking in the building? What it means is that we have to begin to look at talking to those individuals who have decided that they want to be involved in voucher smokers and people who may bring with them other behavioral attitudes that are causing an impact on our communities, where the little old lady has been living at 4,000 Mass for the last 40 years, and now she's impacted by secondhand smoke. Or the one on 4600 Connecticut Avenue or 4501 Connecticut Avenue. I know all those buildings because I live in Crestwood and I am 5 minutes away from those properties each and every day. I shop at the Higgers, now CVS.
Higgers!
Okay, and the community that you talked about with the young man on transportation, I walk it every day. My bank is across the street, and probably some of you are at Truist. Yes. So we all are in the same confines. So what did I do today and yesterday? I said, let me make some research efforts to share with my community. I found out that there is a housing provider association associated with the Housing Authority. The chairman of that group is a man named Russ Brown. Write this down. I'll send it to you because I just got all this today. Mr. Russ Brown can be reached at 202-256-5694. I'll send you his email address because it doesn't make sense to give it to you at this time. They meet on the third Wednesday of every month at 6 o'clock on Zoom. Why am I telling you this? Because as community people, we have to organize to talk to the Housing Provider Association that administers, and there are 3,400 property owners in the District of Columbia involved in the Housing Choice Voucher program. If we are going to change the dynamics, we have to do this in a coordinated fashion. We have to do it in a way that allows us to talk to the people who are in charge and are reaping the benefits financially and otherwise for the people that they put into properties, particularly when the individuals are not able to live independently. And let me specify that I used to work for the National Corporation for Housing Partnerships. We had 88,000 units in 44 states, and I was the vice president of regulatory affairs. I am a regulatory specialist. I live, breathe regulations. When I say that, what it means is that my job to you as a community advocate is to ensure that you are as aware as I am of the remedies that we have at our disposal to change what's happening today. It will not come from building construction changes. It will come from us ensuring that professional property management ethics and codes are adhered to in the District of Columbia, which they do not have here, but they do have in the state of Maryland. So I have those now. We also need to ensure that we are dealing with the issues of the Department of Human Services, who deals with the Rapid Rehousing Program, okay? They have a process that we want to share, we want to get involved in. And it's called the Department of Human Services Incidents, where they do monitoring and investigation from complaints. There is a complaint form. I will share that with you. And when we start filing complaints with this department, they will have no choice but to begin to adhere to checking out the complaints that are happening in buildings. You asked me for resolutions. That is the job that you asked me, and that is the job that I am trying to perform for you. I also wanted to make sure that you were aware of the things that were happening in the city. And before I say that, Ms. Guzman, you probably did receive our topical walkthrough on TOPA. We've had that for probably 15 plus years. I sent it to you because tonight is not a night that we can walk through this TOPA situation to assist everybody, but we do have training programs that can come and help you, and we have attorneys that can also represent you. And Eric Rome is good, but he's not the only game in town. The OTA is free. We are here to represent the tenants of the District of Columbia in these matters. If you looked at my testimony on May the 28th, you will see that I was not happy with the mayor's proposal. But because I am the tenant advocate, I'm supposed to represent your rights and not the agenda of the administration, which might mean I won't get appointed again. But I've survived 5 times. I created the OTA in 2006, and I have been here for 19 years. And I think I have been here because I'm committed to resolving the problems of the community. And now what I want to do is to eliminate the 2% that is on the Housing Act. And why do I want to do that? Because all of our middle income families in this city who are forced to pay more than 2% increases a year are beginning to feel the pain. And we know if there are 40,000 plus people that have lost their job, we still don't know yet how that's going to impact us. And we won't know until after September the 30th, because remember, when the DOGE bill came out and the deal was cut, they paid them through the end of September. So we don't know what's going to happen to vacancies and other things and what people's needs are going to be after September 30th of 2025. So I am trying to prepare now, since there is this proposal from the mayor's office to eliminate TOPA. I said, if you have to take it from us, then give us the 2% back. That's a compound interest that's been going on since 2006, and my staff is in the process of computing what that really meant in terms of rent increases. And why am I saying it? Because we have people who are aging in place in their units, and they are afraid they won't be able to afford to stay in their units. And let's talk about what happens going forward when we talk about building new housing. Oh, you know, we're going to do RFK and we're going to give you 6,400 units. I saw all that good stuff. I said 6,400 units, ain't a whole bunch of units. But I didn't see anything about elderly. I didn't see anything about middle income. I didn't see anything about the people that I know are like me. We all need an affordability fix. And if they decide they're going to take TOPA for a certain amount of years, I want them to give back to us that 2% so that people only have the CPI as an increase. Not just the elderly, but people won't have but the CPI. The mayor's bill also deals with eviction issues. I pointed out in my testimony on the 28th that in fact the council several years back had passed a bill that said that tenants that had not paid their rent had 30 days notification. The new bill says, well, we want to cut that to 10. Since my office deals with not only the emergency housing program, but we are the agency in the city where all eviction information comes through. So if you want to know about evictions in the city, you can come on our website, and our website will tell you who's going to be evicted and in what ward they're going to be evicted and on what day the proposed eviction is scheduled. But I also want to make sure that you know about the things that are coming forward with the OTA. One of those things is that we are having a stakeholders meeting on the 25th of this month at our building at 899 North Capitol Street. We are inviting all of our community partners to come and visit with us. Why? Because the chairman of the city council in housing for the housing committee is going to be our guest speaker. You'll have an opportunity to talk to Robert White. Then on September the 25th, our stakeholders meeting. First time in 5, 6, 7 years since the pandemic, we are having an in-person stakeholders meeting where for the full day, we are going to fill you with so much information, you won't know what to do with it.
Kind of like right now. This
Like
is
right now.
unbelievable.
I am very honored to have had the opportunity to speak to you tonight. And I know I have so much more information to share, but I know your schedule is still there because I have the agenda in front of me.
This is incredible.
I know.
So if you want me to come and speak again, I can. If you want to talk to me about
Buckle up.
you have any questions, I'm ready. For those of you who don't know me, you know, I vote from Bozeman, Montana. I'm writing a book that's called I Bet You Can Never Guess Where I Came From. But I am your tenant advocate. I am the person that embodies and has a favor for ensuring that our tenants in this city are taken care of, not only in those areas, but because I have spent my entire career in housing, I have done it all. I've been on the deal-making side. I've done the tax credits. I'm a tax credit monitor. I know these programs, and I know that as a person who started off as a community organizer, I ain't got nothing but some time to do. So any questions that you have of me at this point, I think I've taken up my 10 minutes. If nothing else, please ask me.
Well, my only question is when can you come back and talk to us again? Because that was
Whenever you want me to, Ms. Guzman.
well,
Whenever you'd like to.
thank you so much. I mean, this was
Yes,
just very
thank you. Thank you
impressive.
very much. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for
I
your
want
time.
to energize you. I want to make you feel like you are important because let me tell you something. When I lived in California, ANCs were already there. So when I came to DC, I went, oh, they got ANCs here now. And when I listened to you, Courtney, tonight, Sue, Mitchell, Adrian, who stays in the background, but he's hanging in there.
He comes in
You
with
guys-
some
you
important
guys-
stuff when you need him.
Listen, he knows you guys have got it going on. Let me help you in any way that I can.
We will.
You've never met me before. Usually I let staff come out and do these things, but I had told Joel, I said, no, I got to do this one myself. He said, well, this is an E&O thing, Ms. Priest. I said, no, this is a Johanna thing, you know. And I wanted you to know that we are about the business of the tenants in this community. We're about the business of the people in the community. And so whatever I can do to help you feel that what you're doing is not in vain, because it's not. What you're doing is not in vain. When you were talking about the transportation stuff, I said, I know exactly where they're talking about because I live just 10 minutes away from all that stuff, you know. And I know the traffic patterns that you speak of. I know all of the things that you talk about. I've talked to Councilmember Furman about the Chevy Chase area. I said, let's do senior housing up there. because over there by the library, we can't do anything else but over there by Wells Fargo, but and I said, all the services are there. They got the CVS, they got this, they got that, they got this. So I am part of you. I just happen to have a job in the District of Columbia. That's all.
And the phone number for people who we certainly need, who have that
reach out to.
252-256-5694. This is amazing. Thank you
I
so
know.
much.
Thank you so much.
I will, we'll be
Any
back
questions?
with you. And I can't wait to see you at the Truist Bank or the BP or.
Well, we'll see each. Well, let's have coffee. Let's go to the Italian restaurant and let's go to Politics and Prose because I am a reader.
We would love it. We would
yes.
love it. Thank you so much for being here. This was incredible. You have so much information. We're gonna digest it and use it and keep
Any
at it.
follow-up you need, I've given you some numbers. What I will do, Sue, you did get the email from us with the TOPA piece.
I did. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
anything else that you need from us, let us know. I'd like to see someone at the stakeholders meeting next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yes, please make sure, call me. You can reach me at 771. I don't do this very often. 233-6689. That's me directly.
Okay, I got it.
So you can call me if you got issues. When I heard about the shooting at the Saratoga, I had not heard about that when the police officer was on. I drive up that street every day when I'm going across town. So on Brandywine. So I was like, what happened? You know, why don't we know about this? We remember when the girl fell off jumped out of the building.
4600.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, all of these things. So know that you're not by yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
We
thank
look
you not
forward to
only for
seeing
the
you. Thanks for being here.
information. Yeah, but also when you said that you wanted to energize us, it was very much needed and very much appreciated.
I'm sorry that
And-
you were at the end of the meeting, but
that's okay.
I needed
Maybe
you
I was
right
supposed
now.
to be. Maybe that's what the
Yes.
God sent, right?
Yes.
When I kept
You
saying,
will never know.
I'm here.
You will never know.
Yeah.
Thank you so
I mean,
much.
these are
Have a
all the
good
things
night.
we've been
Have a
working
good
on
night,
that
all
we
of you.
need. So thank you so much. We have two more quick things. The cannabis application update I want to tell everyone about. We had our roll call hearing yesterday with ABCA. As people know, I think the ANC voted to protest Canna Art, which is next to the Italian bar on Connecticut. We had many protesters join us, including James Elefantis, who owns Comet, Bucks, Muchas Gracias, Honeys. Maybe I forgot one.
Call your mother.
Pardon? No, he doesn't own Call Your Mother.
Oh,
actually.
yeah. Okay.
And then Nick Gill, the tenant who owns that entire building, Sheffield Liquor, that has been, and he's owned it since I think the late 80s. Sheffield Liquor, Nam Dayhoff, who has owned Sheffield Wine and Liquor Shop for 46 years, also joined the protest, and John Connor, who has owned the Connecticut Avenue Amico BP for 64 years. He started working there with his father when he was 7 years old. And that man is the eyes and ears of our neighborhood. Our protestants were summarily DQ'd for not being directly across the street from Canna Art. So the ANC has standing, and the BP was deemed to have standing to protest. And even though they're across the street within the sight line, again, your ANC advocated for what the word directly meant. It was sort of like an old school what the meaning of is situation. And those business owners are going to contest their disqualification as protestants to the cannabis store. Our next part of the process is a status hearing on July 9th. We then have a mediation with the same person who disqualified our protesters for the meaning of the word directly. on the 16th of July, and then we would go to protest here, like the formal protest hearing on July the 30th. That is where it stands. Did I cover everything, people who were there? Did we lose Amy?
Yes, yes, you
Amy's
did
here, just not
quite
on
well.
video.
Okay, sorry. So I think I covered everything. And
Amy's here and listening, sorry.
okay, sorry. So we can move on from that. Do you see water, Mitchell?
Well, I only have two things that I need to ask DC Water about. One, we would like to see the permit that DDOT has given you to close down the crosswalk there across Albemarle that you guys have announced that you're going to close when you do your work. And second, when are you going to start work on that intersection? You were supposed to start on June the 9th, and there's been nothing happening there for 10 days, and who knows when you're going to do that. But tell us, when are you going to start work?
Hey, good evening. So
Hi,
actually,
Jarrell.
hey, how are you? So actually, you'll start to see some activity tomorrow. We'll begin getting our materials delivered for the shoring and excavation work. So you'll see some steel beams coming in and some wood shoring. Once we get all of those, all those deliveries and materials in place, we'll begin the excavation process. So once that work begins, you'll start to see some heavier equipment on site and a lot of activity. Through that phase, I know you mentioned the crosswalk closure. We anticipate beginning that closure just on the east side of Connecticut, heading across Albemarle, just that one section. The sidewalk on Albemarle Street on the north side will remain open at that time. We, like I said,
Just the crossing of Albemarle from the Avalon to Shamali's.
Yes.
That the one that's been obstructed slightly, that's whole crosswalk's going to be closed.
Yes. So there's a
Potentially
manhole in the
big.
middle of that crosswalk where we need to install a bypass.
Okay, but
for part of the process.
Jarrell, do you have a permit to close that from DDOT?
I'll let Peter speak on the permits. I believe so.
Commissioner, yeah, we did.
Okay.
The reason why we haven't used it is because we haven't started the bypass yet. The bypass is going to start when we get to the depth of 30 feet, which is probably going to happen in about 4 weeks. So that's why we didn't want to inconvenience the pizza place. That's why we kind of kept it open, but it's creating a safety issue. So we need to close it because people are kind of walking into the trap.
Yeah, but people are going to keep walking. So let's try and I think you should like either really close it and stop with this sort of like half closing thing because it's really becoming dangerous. But like, again, like, no offense, Joe, but like hearing you're like, oh, it's going to start tomorrow. I mean, I couldn't help but giggle because it's like, it's always going to start tomorrow. That's what they said. Remember we had the other woman on 2 months ago and she was like, no, I'm going to be there on Thursday and we're really going to start.
Yeah, they did. What they need to do, Clark, we have 10 power that we need to drive so that we can put the lagging around. They just finished the power. So the next phase is to put the lagging in. So that's where we are. Everything is in the schedule.
Okay.
So
Well, but now the schedule is delayed, correct? I mean, it is not
no,
going
it's not delayed. The schedule is not delayed. If you look at the schedule that we gave you,
yeah,
it's a 16-inch diameter space that we are using. So we can't do two things at a time. So we did the power. Now we're gonna do the lagging, and once we finish lagging, then we're gonna start the excavation.
Okay, wait, Peter. Let me quote your schedule that I'm now holding in my hand and fluffing around here. Excavation to start June the 9th, 2025. Okay, it's now what, June the 17th. Okay, so how is that not delaying you now a week into September? Are you going to make up time like they do on airplane flights?
Commissioner Beer, I think you look you're looking at the wrong schedule. The latest schedule that we gave you, the excavation will say July, please.
This is the schedule
No,
that,
that's not the schedule.
well, that's what Emmanuel sent out on May the
Commissioner Beer,
30th
we
at
gave
4:56 in the afternoon.
Commissioner Beer, look at the schedule we gave to Councilman Frumin. That is the latest schedule. He sent it to you. He copied us when he sent it to you. That is the schedule we're using.
Okay, let's pull, well, okay, we're gonna pull that up. We're not getting anywhere, so,
Let's move on.
yeah, as always, we're rooting for you, but it's very frustrating to root for you because it just continues to feel like a losing game. So please help us be positive. We had a little down point in the middle of the meeting, then we lifted back up, and this is hard because it just keeps not going the way everyone tells us it's gonna go. So let us know how we can help make this happen other than changing the weather, which we probably can't do. But please, please, please stick to this last time schedule. Like we were now butting into the beginning of the school year. It's just painful.
We're striving. We will.
Okay. All right. We're rooting for you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
That brings us to Commissioner Guzman. Bring us home. Except you're on mute. No. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Sorry. Okay. Yes.
Treasurer report. Sorry, I was a little.
Yeah. No, sorry. Let's see. Opening balance, 50,351.85. We had a change of debit of 3,841.02. And that was basically for personnel costs, and some
tax
bank fees and things like that. However, we did receive our quarterly disbursement, and it was from OANC. It has been delayed because of some issues regarding the debit transactions that needed some forms filled out by OANC, and information was not immediately available because of the lack of communication by one of our commissioners. However, OANC did the research themselves and got the answers for me. So we were able to complete that form and get our disbursement, although late. This will continue to be an issue moving forward, and it is unfortunately it's an unfortunate situation for our commission. But basically, does anyone have any questions about the treasurer's report?
I'm good. Thank you for doing it.
No.
A lot of work.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No problem.
And do we have any commissioner updates that we didn't cover in this marathon meeting that we're so optimistic about ending on time at the beginning of the meeting? I think
Not me.
yeah, I think we covered everything there is to cover. If anyone has any questions, we have let's see, 3f.anc@dc.gov. You can reach us all at that email or at our individual ANC SMDs, 3F01, 3F02, etc. at anc.dc.gov. Adrian can put those in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love your ideas for things you want to hear about in the meeting, in upcoming meetings. So I am going to move that we adjourn the meeting at 9:20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. Thanks for everyone who stuck in. We appreciate hearing from all the people we heard from today. Take care, everybody.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Good night.
Thank you.